Hello, welcome to Diary of a Creator. I am Victoria, the Soul Led Career Coach, and this is a channel for ambitious, freedom seeking souls like me who refuse to settle for the ordinary. So, if you are feeling stuck in a career or life that no longer fits, you're starting to question your path and you're craving something more freedom, more alignment, more joy, then you are in the right place. And if my content resonates, I would love it if you could like, share, subscribe, follow. It just helps me to reach more souls who need this message. So today I'm speaking to my guest, Rebecca, who is an ex-corporate recruiter, a former tech startup founder, and now an inner mastery mentor working with leaders, founders, and those that are seeking or navigating transformation. Welcome back to Diary of a Creator. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you, Vic. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining. So, if you want to give everyone a bit of a introduction about who you are, where you've come from, where you are now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Rebecca. I call myself an inner mastery mentor now, but my background is previously corporate recruitment, HR, UK and Australia. When I became pregnant, I experienced pregnancy discrimination, so I left the corporate world and jumped into running a startup. So I went onto a boot camp, got into an accelerator, and I had an idea of working with individuals, corporates, and employees on parental leave. The original idea was how do we keep women in the workplace and hold their hand before, during, and after parental leave? Long story short, I had that startup for 5 years. I went through two rounds of VC investment. We ended up, it was called Trio. We ended up having 9 life event journeys. So everything from starting a family to retiring and everything in between, including mental health, menopause, every event that you go through in the workplace as an individual. We would have what we call journeys that hold the hand of both the employer and the employee, telling them what to do, when, how, and why.
Yeah.
It was super challenging because I was raising capital through COVID, and then we had a huge economic downturn. So in September last year, I sadly closed the business. We had customers from Citibank, Ricoh, Fujifilm. It was awesome, but the economy just wasn't sustainable for a technology business, and we weren't scaling at the rate that we really needed to.
Yeah.
Um, but from that, I've now jumped into what I do now. 70% of founders have mental health challenges. Luckily, I didn't, and I credit that to the breath work and the energy work that I was practicing over those years. I did get burnout, so I did get to a point a year before I closed the business where I was thinking something, but I couldn't actually verbalize my thoughts. I took myself off for a week to a retreat and completely switched off. That really started the process of what am I doing? What am I chasing? Is this worth it? My physical health is being
Mm.
impacted. The harder it got externally, the more I went inside. The more breath work I did, the more energy work I did, the more I connected to my own consciousness and my higher self. When it was the end of the road, that's what's led me into bringing those learnings back out into life and saying, well, I've learned all of this. I understand the pressures of being a founder, all of the stuff that leadership comes with. How can I now help other leaders and founders and seekers of another way of being?
Yeah. That's so cool because when you speak to your journey and where it came from, as with all good journeys, they're born out of a pain point that you experience trying to serve others, feeling that to solve that. Do you feel like obviously you had to close it and there was a lot of lessons there. Do you feel that you would be able to show up doing what you do now without having gone through any of that experience?
Great question. Trio wasn't my first startup failure.
Ah,
I worked for one of the largest global recruitment companies, but before I came to Australia, I had another startup called SlimFit. It was an online nutrition and training program.
mm,
And that was in 2000. I was talking to VCs in Green Park in London. I had a tech team in Romania. I was in my early 20s. This is going back many years. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so young, naive, but passionate about delivering this work. And I needed venture capital to bring this to life. And I remember having this meeting in Green Park. And I came out and I was in this pit of depression. My partner at the time, I found out he was cheating on me. And I was just in this black hole. And I remember walking past Pret a Manger and there was a homeless man outside. I went in, bought him food, crossed the road into Green Park, and there was green and white and blue and white stripy deck chairs. And I went and sat on one. I was like, I'm in this black hole. There is no light. I was just in literally the first time I really felt like I am now just in depression. And I was just like, life is just going to be so much easier if I'm not here. It was like I was in a
Mm.
really dark hole. And I ended up just leaving that business. I'm in my early 20s. At that point, I just closed it down, went to Mallorca and got myself better, came home, and then ended up coming to, not long after, got a job in recruitment and then moved to Australia in recruitment and stayed in that
Mm.
corporate space. There's a lot of security in corporate, right? You
Yeah.
get your paycheck, health insurance, and holidays.
Yeah.
But I think once you've done your own thing, you have this sort of calling. When I then left because of pregnancy discrimination. So that was the next sort of thing that sort of triggered the rebirth and the evolution of Trio. The downside of Trio was that I kind of lost everything that we call success in this sort of material world, and then came out, from that dark side, birthed something
Mm.
new, which I absolutely love. It's going brilliantly. From every low, there is an opposing high, and you do learn every time.
Yeah, it's like the phoenix rising. I think there's another thing to touch on here because I definitely found it with coming into my purpose-led business. A lot of fulfillment is how you're working. A lot of what you're touching on is the burnout, the overwhelm. It can really be quite a lot, which is why people do get stuck in corporate because it is the security, it is the safety. But then you can't ever get rid of that voice that's calling you to go
Yeah.
into something else, which is probably why you've kept doing the cycles.
I don't think I'll be back in corporate anytime soon. Luckily, this is working well. It's definitely hard, hard on both sides. If you're in corporate and you have a passion or a deeper feeling, making that leap is very hard. When I did it with Trio, I was only 6 months out of leaving my husband at the time. I
Mm,
had a 3-year-old boy. I have no family in Australia. It didn't make sense to do it at all.
mm,
Would have been more sensible to get a job. But I had this real belief that this is important and organizations need to take care of their people through these
mm,
life events. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it work, but that calling was definitely there. It moved aside all rational thought
mm,
and I went headlong into it. Many times I've looked back and gone, oh my God, there were signs you should stop then.
mm.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but when you're deeply passionate about something and you truly believe in the mission, everything gets put to the side. Maybe just this time, if I just keep going. And it's always those stories of don't give up because just around the corner you're going to win that big deal or the next deal or something. So you just keep going. But
Yeah.
fortunately, it did just get to a point where it's not feasible anymore. I just have to accept it.
And I love that because like you can go in two camps with this, right? You can say that potentially it wasn't a fully aligned business. If you think of your soul, what you're doing now is more aligned to that. But to understand what's aligned, we need the slaps in the face to gear us. And I think obviously everyone's different. Some people need to experiment and jump in and then work out it's not right, which feels to be you just jump, see how it goes, and shift as you're going. What do you think your biggest lessons or takeaways from having to walk away from those and then reinvent?
I think everything happens in divine timing.
Mm,
So I have spent a lot of time beating myself up. I probably took a year to even get to the mental place of accepting that it was going to close.
mm,
A long time for that part of that time frame, I felt like a complete failure. And I know that it's not, but when you sort of put everything into it, I had sunk. everything into it, getting my head around that this isn't a failure, and then being at peace with how much money I had lost.
Mm,
I now say sort of invested in my education, just a massive learning. And really, it's an investment in my future business because there's not many people who have done a startup as a non-tech founder, raised capital. It's a lot harder for women, solo
mm,
female founders only access 0.6% of the venture capital pool. I've turned a lot of these things around to feelings of success, growth and learning. One thing I will say that I did learn is to not get hung up on what everyone else tells you.
mm.
Those stories of like only 0.6% of female founders get capital, it's going to be so hard for you. COVID, everything's really hard to grow business and we're now in a recession, that no one's got budgets, no one's spending money. At the time, because I was non-tech in a tech environment, I had to trust a lot of people. So you're feeling disembodied, and it's really
Yeah,
hard to trust yourself when you don't really know what you're doing.
yeah,
I believed those narratives. And I think in hindsight, had I just gone, okay, that may be the case for some, but I'm going to write my own story here rather than holding on to that narrative and still trying to move forward. You're constantly in
copying.
resistance to this narrative you have in your head
Yeah,
about the way it's going to be. There's so much power in just going, okay, that doesn't matter to me. That's not me. That's
mm,
not my story. That may be someone else's, but it's not mine. And then creating your own story. So
yeah,
I suffocated my business. I held on
yeah.
so tight and tried to push forward.
Out of
So
scarcity, right?
out of scarcity and out of
Mm.
belief in all of this stuff that's not going to work and it's going to be so hard for you. And
Yeah. This is the work that I do, is showing people how the shadow and the light are going on. But if your shadow is there, it will be a brick wall and you will create it. I have views on recessions, and I feel like they're almost designed because they pull us all down into a scarcity belief, and then no one goes for what they want.
yeah,
And it's not to say that cost of living isn't stupid here. Like even in Bali, a coffee's like 7 Australian dollars these days.
ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. The fact that there aren't opportunities or spaces in the world of possibilities, or like I just told you about the manifestation thing, there's a wealth of everything always. And you probably were, in essence, fighting yourself rather than the conditions.
Now I look back and I can see how I stifled my growth
Yeah.
and suffocated the business because our business is just an energetic entity as well. I was letting all of these external stories define
Mm.
it and define me and define how I showed up in it, my expectations of how I'm going to be treated. And then obviously you feel that so strongly because this is your passion. This is like my second child.
Yeah.
Was I think I didn't feel so strongly about the mission and the vision and what we were trying to do and leave a legacy in the world. It would have been a lot easier to let it go. A lot of female founders birth things into the world that they are deeply passionate about. Men are often far more pragmatic and logical. And it's like, oh, there's an opportunity there. Let's go for it. Oh, that's not working. Backtrack, get out. Women are often a lot more emotionally involved because it's something that they've experienced and they want to rectify and make good.
Which is why it's a personal development journey, because when you do have that vested interest, and that's certainly what I've experienced, you are coming up against your own fears and limitations. It's the resistance to the growth, to the expansion, to where you want to go.
Yeah. The way I run my business now is in a far more expansive state. I
Mm,
think if you're going to go into business, you really need to have some boundaries around what am I willing to do? What am I willing to lose and give up? At what point do I say that enough is enough?
mm,
So now I have so much more boundaries. I used to work until 1 or 2 in the morning. My son would wake me up at 6. I would be living on coffee, croissants, just those easy, unhealthy foods, running on adrenaline the whole time. I wasn't particularly healthy because my nervous system was on edge. I was constantly in my sympathetic nervous system. Now I look at that and go, that's not success. The busy label is not success. None of that is success. But now what I've also learning is what does success look like to me? What are my boundaries?
Mm.
What am I prepared to lose, to give up, to be affected? How am I going to run my day?
Yeah.
Is working till 1 in the morning success? Absolutely not. How much are you willing for success or business growth or whatever you want to define it as affect your health? Health is now my number one priority.
Yeah.
Doing something that I love every single day is now my priority. And I do appreciate that that's incredibly privileged position to be in, but it's not come without a huge amount of loss and pain.
I'd say you've earned it. I think you've gone through your cycles and your dark nights as well. And I went on a similar realization of what is success because coming out of corporate environment, particularly for women, we get very programmed into a way of working and showing up, which is all about being validated. And when you don't know why you're doing it, you just take it into a new venture and then you just push it. But then I found everything else in my life was dropping. I'm like, hang on a second. What is success? It's balance. It's like, where do you want to spend your time? And I think I was such a gung ho, got to achieve, this is my purpose and mission. And it becomes more of that legacy ego piece. And I wonder if this is just the progression of the journey where you start that way and then you slowly work out that's just same shit. It feels the same. There's no point creating a solid business or a path if it's gonna feel like what you've come from.
Yeah, I agree. Hustle culture doesn't really serve the individual. It
No.
serves a lot outside of you. There's nothing wrong with getting up at 5 a.m., but that concept of the 5 to 9 is where you get most of your work done, and then the 9 to 5. For me, that's just not where I'm at anymore. That
Um,
very hard, cold, your diary's fully. Now, what I've come to realize is you need to let go of a lot to be able to let in. And if
yeah,
we can let go of the things that don't bring us joy, that are in obligation, it
yeah,
comes with a really heavy energy.
yeah,
And nothing great matches that heavy energy.
yeah,
So you need to work from either reframe what you have to do to I get to do this,
mm,
which is far more full of possibility, which is a far
mm,
higher vibration, or you just drop it all together. I call her my soul coach. She's like, well, do you really need a marketing strategy? Why don't you just move into the vibration of who you want to be and who you want to work with, and those people will find you? And it's funny, like that has worked. But it's so hard to shift from, well, I need to do this, I need to be posting, all of the I have to do this list that we're told that we have to do.
yeah,
But if that hits our vibration low, we are not going to be attracting the clients or the business or the opportunities that we want to be attracting. So we have to be in that vibration. For me to get there, okay, I stop doing all of that stuff or I reframe it and I add in the stuff that I really want to do, whether it's a walk or sitting in the sun or going down the beach or
mm,
hanging with or whatever it might be. Do the things that start bringing me joy. And the more joy we have, the more our vibration rises. And then if we can do less rather than just adding in more,
mm,
it's so amazing what drops in. Two significant things have dropped in when I've been in the gym. One was like, you need to just do a men's only breathwork event. Within 2 weeks, it was hosted, it was sold out. Fascinating how it just flows the moment you stop. So I could say, let go and
yeah.
let in.
It's true because even in the solid business front or people making their career transition, it's still a lot of the strategies, but it's the same with me. Take actions intuitively. One was like, you have to get the beta program. I'm like, oh, but where am I going to get the people from? I said it in a women's group. I filled it without any promotion. They tell you all of this and you need this, you need this. It's like, do you really? If it's not aligned, it's not aligned.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could just fill in all of our day, like literally 9 to 5 or whatever we want to call our working day these days, in a calendar doing stuff that we feel that we have to do.
That's
Or
programming.
we can just, yeah, pick some of that makes us feel inspired. I'm positioning myself in my head with my business. I'm here in service. I will share information.
Yeah.
I'm here to serve, and out of that business, and therefore
Balance.
money will flow. But
Yeah.
money is just energy, and there's multiple ways that abundance,
Mm.
including money, can flow into this life.
It's a key reframe. I made it. And I think even it's almost a good reflection of when people don't really know what path they're on. Are you in service or are you in service to your ego? Because your ego is going to take you down a path of trying to do it a certain way, look a certain way, get the amount of likes, be seen as a good person, and it's still going to feel exactly the same as what you've come from, versus where you truly step into service of soul and service of others. That's how I'm able to show up in the things that, from an ego lens, I don't necessarily want to do. But when I'm like, no, this is to reach the women that are going to be in my community, and they're going to be in my community because of this. And I'm like, okay, that's the energy. And
Yeah.
then you do it from that. So it's like taking yourself out, which really is kind of what's needed on a soul led path, right? You got to take your shit out.
And
You
it
got
is a hard shift because when you're thinking about building a business, you think, well, I need clients or it's buyers, people to buy from me. And then you're looking at
yeah.
people just as money and how much money can I make from all of these different people. That's not being in service.
No, it's serving, yeah, it's serving yourself. And I think we all probably start that way.
Right? Because to get to your target, and
Yeah.
often we're also taught that the target is purely financial.
Mm.
Actually, for me, the measure of success is I can take time off whenever I want and spend it with my son. I can take him on holiday or
Yeah.
go out for lunch or go for a walk. That's my measure of success.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need money, but a lot of the things that I'm coming to be at peace with is I only need enough for everything that I want to do today because all we have is
Mm.
this moment today. And if I have everything I need today, then I have everything I need. We have this real striving, and there's nothing wrong with acquisition of wealth as long as it's not at the expense of
Happy.
being happy and being joyful and living
Yeah.
in the moment
Yeah.
because you can't actually take anything with you. So if you're working all these hours for others, and just to accrue a whole host of wealth, but you've lived 40 years or 20 years just doing something you don't want to do, you've had a dream you've never had the guts to jump into, then
Mm.
that to me is not success.
Look at the Balinese. This is why I love being in countries like this because they've just got a deep-seated gratitude where they're not seeking. They're just quite content with what they've got. Like they can display a lot more happiness just through being. I think we're taught or conditioned into Western societies to seek, seek, seek. And yeah, I think for me, the reflection was there's seeking for the sake of evolving your soul and moving through lessons and pushing the boundaries on what your soul's here to grow. But then there's seeking to create safety. It's like this capture. But when you learn how to trust that you're always going to have what you need, which takes time. I'm like 80% there because I've had enough come through. I'm like, okay, cool, we're good. Until you can get there, you're always going to have that frantic capture because you don't trust that you're going to be
Sabotage.
caught.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing ever.
To shift into utter trust of the universe. At the same time of doing that, you're needing to drop all of the stuff that we've been told to do, to be more and to sit in the frequency more. It really is a very difficult shift, a huge shift. And you can still have a purpose and business and have incredible wealth. They're not mutually exclusive. We absolutely can. Anyone working in that space deserves to have unlimited abundance. I think what I've come to realize is the marks of success have changed.
Yeah,
It's far more important for me to lead from being in service and doing literally just every day what brings me joy.
yeah,
And from that, abundance has started to flow
yeah,
rather than focus on the money,
yeah, yeah,
and it's one marker of success,
yeah.
but it's often at the expense of so much else.
Yeah, it's what keeps people stuck. And so you've given a bit about where you are in your business, which is a totally different energy to the startups. I think we move closer to coming into that soul guidance and the opening and moving through the shadows of accepting that there is a different way to build and grow things that's not about the hustle and overwork we get taught. What would you say of all of your journey, of your metamorphosis, what are you the most proud of?
I guess I'm actually proud of the resilience. Unless I had been through it, I would never have known how resilient I can be, how much I can take on, cope with, and move through, how resourceful I can be. There's been times where literally at one point I didn't even have a dollar between two bank accounts and I had to chase down money. I look back now and just be like, I had a 4-year-old son at the time. So what was I thinking? But I think we don't know how incredible we are and how much we can cope with and how resourceful we are until we're actually put in those situations. I do truly believe we're never given anything more than what we can cope with. We'll come in with various soul contracts to navigate life
Yeah.
and learn for our own soul's evolution
Mm.
as we grow and as we awaken. Our job here as a human is to remember why we're here and to remember what our gifts are and to follow that path to live in our purpose and doing what we need to do. And I do think our spirit is here to experience the human form, the life that we get to experience in being human. And spirit just wants to experience joy. We don't have to be in lack and scarcity and hate and grief and anger. We can choose to attach meaning to those emotions, and that attachment keeps us trapped. Or we can have a non-attachment to it and just
Yeah.
accept that it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. We are just a soul or a spirit having a human experience. We are just a drop of consciousness in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
And so are our parents, so are our children, and we're
Everyone.
just little drops
Yeah.
bubbling around, experiencing. We can choose our timeline, we can choose our storyline. We don't need to attach onto anything. We can just
Yeah.
go, okay, this story's not serving me anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna change and
Yeah.
do something else.
Yeah, we are the creator and also we leave with nothing.
Exactly. So why strive to accrue so much? We come with nothing, we leave with nothing. So why in this middle gap are we striving to accrue so much at
Mm.
such expense to ourselves when we
Yeah.
can't even take it with us?
Well, it's the conditioning, right? If you keep people as consumers, they're not creators. And then I've seen this a lot coming out through Instagram. It's like you're either a consumer or a creator. We're all creators, which is why there's this void and this depression and this anxiety because people aren't creating from their soul. They're consuming, and
Yeah.
that's what leaves people miserable. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, you're not expressing whatever you came here to express.
But if you're in the cycle and the trap of consumerism, then how do that's an addiction that you need to stop to
It's the shadow.
jump into creating. And you
Mm.
can still create and then consume. But I think once you get into this space, you become so much more awake to what you're consuming, but in every sense, right? What am I breathing? What am I eating? What am I hearing that is forming my opinions?
Mm.
Like the consumption of stuff, you become
Yeah.
so much aware on every single level. It's not just what I'm buying as a typical consumer, it's everything.
If you even think about it, not one single thought you have is yours because you didn't come in with thoughts.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
The soul doesn't speak in thoughts.
So what we listen to, it's non-stop. If you go anywhere outside of your home,
Yeah.
you've got messages on trains, buses, taxis, shopping malls. You are bombarded with messaging, and
Have
that
you
messaging is seeping into our unconscious and forming our belief system.
have you seen the movie? It's super old. It's like 1980s or something. And the guy gets these special glasses and then he puts them on and he starts looking at the adverts and the different people. And he can see the subliminal message of what it's trying to do.
Yes. And
Yeah, and I
it's
think even people who think that they're, and this is the dangerous part, and this is why I think we've ended up with a spiritual community that's going a little bit haywire. If you have an ego, you are susceptible to conditioning.
Mm.
You're not susceptible. Subliminal messaging works for most people without being conscious. If you've been triggered to hear something and then an hour later they ask you to do a test and it's about the music, you're going to put those answers in. If you think you're exempt from that kind of energy, you're not. Every human is.
Yeah. It's hard not to let our ego run the show. We all have limiting beliefs, unconscious thoughts that don't serve us, but they are patterns. They've often run for years, but that's the conscious awareness of, where's that coming from? What I have now that I didn't have back when I had Trio, I was aware of the narrative, but I didn't create space to go, but is that mine? I took it on as mine. As you become more consciously aware, you can create that space and pause to go, but is this serving me?
Yeah.
Talk to my clients about this when we do breath work. You've got your unconscious, your conscious ego mind, and your high consciousness or super conscious, unity conscious, whatever you want to call it. These two, the unconscious mind, are very energetically intense. There's a lot of power behind there. We don't often tap into our higher consciousness. So
Mm.
as these two come forward through the subconscious lens doesn't have any discernment about going, oh, well, actually, that's an unconscious limiting belief. That's a pattern that isn't serving you. Why are you letting that run the show? It
Yeah.
just goes, oh, there's that really strong thought or pattern, you're not good enough. Suddenly our reality is created, and we're constantly in this cycle of creating that reality
Yeah.
because we never actually give ourselves time or space or have the tools to go, well, let's tap into our higher self. And that's what I love breath work for so much, is that the conscious connected way of breathing can offline
Yeah.
your conscious mind, and you get into the slipstream of consciousness, which is why I call my program Slipstream. You can sort of bypass your ego, which wants to keep us safe, stuck small and boxed in. We can offline that and then access our higher consciousness. It allows us to alchemize these layers of beliefs that aren't serving us, but it also gives us the ability to tap into altered states of consciousness. And that's where it's just magic, where you kind of realize and then you can just reassess actually, what
Mm.
is it that I want? What do I want to do?
That
What's
is the
in,
clarity space. Yeah. It's like, it's almost the only clarity space
yeah,
because
that's
everything else is just
that.
programmed.
Yeah.
It's like who is what we came in with. It's where the
Yeah.
gifts come from.
If I can pull in this,
Mm.
what am I doing next? What's my
Yeah.
inspired action? What can I trust in?
Yeah, and even people that are trying to figure it out, it's a common pattern where they want to map it. I've even got a client now and she's like, oh, but I know the bigger picture and I have to map all this out. I'm like, that's your ego
Yeah.
because your soul doesn't work that way and it doesn't give you what you want when you want it. Like, you've just
And
got to
also,
open to receive.
what our ego thinks is possible is like
Very
it's
limited.
this is the line. This is how I need to make this work. I have to get money and then I do this and this. And it's the only way. Take those guide rails off. Set your vision, like your North Star. This is what we want to do. This is
Yeah.
the legacy we want to leave. This is the first step of inspired action I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Between here and achieving that can be any length of
Um,
time and could happen in multitude of ways. Let's not put guide rails on it because actually there are possibilities beyond my wildest dreams of how it can all come to fruition if I
yeah.
just let it manifest.
Right.
Or we think we have to have every single stepping stone put in place, and it just is not like that.
No, it can't be like that. That's actually a dead giveaway that you're not following your soul, that your ego's got in the way. Everyone's ego's going to do it because it's a way of creating certainty, but there is no certainty when you follow your soul.
No,
I've got a North Star. I know what I'm creating, but I don't know how long it's going to take me to create, and I don't know how it's all going to come together. I'm just going one by one.
yeah,
And then you've got a prime example of a business that probably wasn't in flow and one that's in flow.
mhm,
And that's really like the biggest insight of a path that's aligned and one that was forced is
yeah,
you can keep butting yourself up against brick walls, which is what it will feel like when you're going the wrong way. And I even had that at the beginning of the business. I was getting brick walls for
Yeah.
certain things I was doing. I was like, okay. And then I had to just, your soul won't let you almost. It's like,
Yeah.
stop going that way.
Yes, it's so interesting. With that sort of jumping piece, I actually think that is the secret to it all. We have to jump and trust.
We do.
You can't have every path mapped out because often you are pushing in a limited manner in a direction that isn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Whereas if you set your North Star and then go, my inspired action is this, and then see what flows and just stay in the vibration of that person that you want to be, like whatever you feel you think you'll feel when you're successful,
Yeah.
bring that into now, so you're being that person, that be do have concept, I need to be that person now, and then I'll do the things and then I'll have it. We often go, the old sort of realm is, well, I need to get it first, then I'll do the things and then I'll be the person I want to be. It's like, no, we have to flip that. We have to show up as that person who is already working with clients or selling to customers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's it's as if it's already happening. And that often does require a leap of faith and just trusting
Yeah.
that your wings are going to appear and it is all going to work out, because it does, but it is so freaking scary. And it goes
Very
against
uncomfortable.
everything that we're taught.
I believe that discomfort you have, I hate the word test, but it almost feels like it's a test to see your resolve for the commitment. I've had numerous cliff dives and zero awareness of if I'm going to be caught, landed, fall on my face. Some of them I have fallen on my face, but then I've come back up and collected it. It's just the art of, it's courage, really. You've got to have courage to create a new path. And to that point, what would be for any women that are in the beginning mixes of, say, maybe they're still in corporate, they've got that niggle that you spoke about, that all of the women that come on this channel speak about, because it's the same niggle. I'm here for more. What would be your advice to these women who are
The jumping phase.
the part where they've got to jump off the cliff, but they're like, woohoo.
I think there's two ways you can do it. There's the one where you just leave corporate and jump headlong in and go. Often that requires people to be at a stage where maybe they're still living at home, so their existence isn't compromised straight away.
Yeah,
Or they've got enough money behind them, that they can go, okay, I've got 6 months or 12 months
yeah,
where I'm going to do this.
yeah,
I mean, everything takes a lot longer and it costs more than we think it's going to.
yeah,
We don't sort of switch off a salary packet and then switch on an income overnight. So there's definitely ways to do that. I think that way is the value of a coach. I cannot
mm,
underestimate how important that is, to
mm,
have somebody by your side that's been there and done it,
yeah,
to cover those pit holes so that you can move forward faster.
yeah,
Sure, it's an investment up front, but you get to where you need to be faster and at lower cost than if you just go on a trip up the whole way. Or we kind of do that, look, I'm going to reduce my hours or work part-time or pick up another income stream as I build my business.
mm,
I think sometimes that's easier for our nervous system to cope with, and we don't fall into that scarcity or lack mentality. The
mm,
only to be mindful of is that concept of let go and let in. To build something new, you need space for that to come in. If we're fully packed with all of the other stuff we're doing or
yeah,
the existing job, we're trying to create a side hustle, just be aware that there's only so much space that this can drop into.
yeah,
So we can start building a side hustle, and it's a great idea, if it's external classes or get one or two clients or whatever, start a online shop on Instagram or something, whatever it is that people want to set up. Know that at some point you cannot build a business unless you step into it physically and energetically. If we want to go bit by bit, absolutely fine, but be prepared to drop something to create the space before it appears.
yeah,
It's not going to be $1 million business whilst you've also got your full-time job. I do encourage people to look at building a business from a service point of view, of being in service, That's the world we are moving into, away from greed, control, power, pure monetary gain, into a world that's far more collective, collaborative,
Yeah.
kinder, balanced.
Yeah.
And that requires us to come into it with this energy. If we can do that, we'll be at the forefront of that.
I love that. And I think it's on the individual to work out where their nervous system thresholds are with the financials. I did the jump and had a bit of a nervous system break out, but it was all part of the lessons. The other thing is the service naturally comes when you're serving your heart. It's that combination. When you're fully serving your heart, you are in service from your heart, not from here. Because that's how we come into the world. We come in kind, we come in connected, and that's where we're going back to, really,
Anything that's born from love, truth, and integrity to
is
grow.
the right energy.
It's coming from a high vibration.
Yeah.
And I would say I've been through the bootstrapping route and the investment route. Raising funds is obviously another way that you can grow a business. I would encourage people to bootstrap as far as you can to retain as much control of the business as you can.
Bootstrapping is self-invested, right?
Yes, rather than taking external investment, because
Yeah.
as soon as you do that, it just shifts. You've got less room for maneuver and making mistakes. It's absolutely possible to raise money and build businesses, but it's not necessarily easy and it takes a huge amount of time. We can
Yeah.
get far now with AI and apps and all of this incredible technology, which is open source and often free. We can build MVPs, minimal viable product, really quickly and cheaply to test the market and then iterate, test and learn and iterate really fast.
That's a good piece of advice. Do you have any last words of encouragement, wisdom that you want to share?
So I don't think you'll ever regret it. And I always say to myself, what's the worst thing that will happen? If I can deal with the worst thing that's going to happen, then go for it.
Yeah.
And mine was, well, if I lose my job, lose everything, what's the worst thing? Okay, I'll go and work in a coffee shop. I've worked in a coffee shop before. I had the time of my life. I can do that. Everything you lose financially, you can accrue
Yeah.
again. It's just energy. Money is just energy. It's just a cycle. If we can get out ahead of having to hold on tight to it, it stops the flow of it.
Yeah.
So the more we can spend, the more we can allow the energy of abundance to flow. I would also say when you're stepping into this path, keep literally in a journal, a tab of how is the universe showing up as
Mm.
abundant for me. And so we're just keeping our eyes on the prize of I am winning, I am successful, I am abundant, the universe is showing up for me, I'm looked after, I'm safe, the more it will show up. Like just little things, like there was a point where I'd be like, I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful for the food on my table. I'm
Mm.
grateful that my son is healthy. I'm grateful that I'm healthy. Like it was just sometimes the most basics because everything else was going wrong. Like if that's the most minimal thing that I can be grateful for, I would just keep focusing on that.
I love that. And being in Bali, they do gratitude very well, even if they've got nothing.
Gratitude is magic.
It is magic.
We can create our own storylines, our own timelines. We are creators. The universe is so abundant if we just shift the way we
See it.
attach to stuff.
Yeah. That's a good note to end on. I like that. Thank you so much for that. I will leave your links at the end for any leaders, any corporate women that are tuning in or listening for any breath work or energy healing.
Thank you, Vic. It's so good to talk to you, and I just love this topic. I wish for more women to jump into doing what their soul desires, and yeah.
That's the purpose, is to get the community and also just be able to collaborate. There's no competition. That's a different energy.
No, not at all. Remember, nothing matters. That is one other thing. It took me so long to close Trio, and I came to realize at the end of it that nobody cared.
No,
It,
it's just us, right?
and that was my ego of, oh my God, you're going to be, people are going to think that you're a complete failure and the negative self-talk. And when it came to it, nobody cared. I was like, wow.
It's just a part of your story.
People are just so interested, invested in themselves. They really don't care what's going on elsewhere.
That's very true.
Just do it.
Just do it because no one gives a shit.
Saying this do it because no one else gives a shit. The only people who are stopping us is ourselves.
Yeah,
And
literally.
that's
Just do it. I like that.
lovely.
Alrighty, thank you so much,
Thanks
Ben.
for having me. Good to talk.